Good Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Conversations Daily News. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. We, of course, have your news headlines coming up on this hump day. We have the truth of the day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich, and in today's entertainment spotlight, you're being part of my conversation with author Gracie Kim. Enjoy today's broadcast. For Conversations Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with your Wednesday headlines. In national news, Senate report details broad failures around January 6th attack. A Senate investigation of the January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol found a broad intelligence breakdown across multiple agencies, along with widespread law enforcement and military failures that led to the violent attack. There were clear warnings and tips that supporters of former President Donald Trump, including right-wing extremist groups, were planning to storm the Capitol with weapons and possibly infiltrate the tunnel system underneath the building. But that intelligence never made it up to the top leadership. The result was chaos. A Senate report released on Tuesday details how officers on the front lines suffered chemical burns, brain injuries, and broken bones, among other injuries, after fighting the attackers, who quickly overwhelmed them and broke into the building. Officers told the Senate investigators they were left with no leadership or direction when command systems broke down. The Senate report is the first and could be the last bipartisan review of how hundreds of Trump supporters were able to push violently past security lines and break into the Capitol that day, interrupting the certification of Joe Biden's presidential election victory. The failures detailed in the report highlighted how, almost 20 years after the September 11th attacks, U.S. intelligence agencies are still beset by a fundamental issue: a failure of imagination. The report recommends immediate changes to give the Capitol Police Chief more authority, to provide better planning and equipment for law enforcement, and to streamline intelligence gathering among federal agencies. But as a bipartisan effort, the report does not delve into the root cause of the attack, including Trump's role as he called for his supporters to fight to overturn his election defeat that day. It does not call the attack an insurrection, even though it was. And it comes 2 weeks after Republicans blocked a bipartisan independent commission that would investigate the insurrection more broadly. In more national news, United States increasingly unlikely to meet Biden's July 4th vax goal. For months, President Joe Biden has laid out goal after goal for taming the coronavirus pandemic and then exceeded his own benchmarks. Now, though, the U.S. is on pace to fall short of his aim to have 70% of Americans at least partially vaccinated by July the 4th. The White House has launched a month-long blitz to combat vaccine hesitancy and a lack of urgency to get shots, particularly in the South and Midwest, but it is increasingly resigned to missing the president's vaccination target. The administration insists that even if the goal isn't reached, it will have little effect on the overall U.S. recovery, which is already ahead of where Biden said it would be months ago. About 16 million unvaccinated adults need to receive at least one dose in the next 4 weeks for Biden to meet his goal. But the pace of new vaccinations in the U.S. has dropped to about 400,000 people per day, down from a high of nearly 2 million per day 2 months ago. Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's top infectious disease expert, told reporters at a briefing on Tuesday that he still hopes the goal will be met, and if we don't, we're going to continue to keep pushing. So far, 14 states have reached 70% coverage among adults, with about a dozen more on pace to reach the milestone by July the 4th. But the state-to-state variation is stark. In more national news, Martha White dies sparked 53 Louisiana Capitol bus boycott. Martha White, a black woman whose actions helped launch the 1953 bus boycotts in Louisiana's capital city, has died. She was 99 years old. White died Saturday, her family and others confirmed to the Associated Press. White, then 23, was working as a housekeeper in the capital city of Baton Rouge in 1953 when she took action. After a long day of walking to and from work, while seeking to reach her bus stop, she decided to sit in one of the only bus seats available, one designated for white passengers. When the driver ordered her to get up, White refused, and another black woman sat beside her in solidarity. The bus driver threatened to have the women arrested. Ultimately, police, the bus company manager, and a civil rights activist showed up. The civil rights activist informed the driver of a recently passed ordinance to desegregate buses in the city, meaning White wasn't violating any rules. In response to the ordinance, bus drivers began a strike, and the ordinance was later overturned. That prompted a boycott by the black community in Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge Mayor Sharon Weston Broome issued a statement Monday recognizing whites' contribution to the city's civil rights movement. And finally, in entertainment news, Cheryl Underwood of The Talk to host Daytime Emmys. Cheryl Underwood of The Talk will host a Daytime Emmy Awards this year. She'll preside over the 48th annual ceremony on June 25th in Los Angeles. Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. It's now time for the Truth of the Day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich. Mary Ellen, take it away.
Hi, this is Mary Ellen with your Truth of the Day. Everyone has a personal story to tell. Some people travel a path of wealth and privilege, while others struggle with only themselves to rely on. And both have great life stories to tell. All of us need to learn from each other. Tell each other your life story so we can understand the pain, the trauma, and the struggle each of us experienced in different ways. Even two people living in the same family with very similar experiences will see things differently, leading them down different life paths. Every person has a treasure of life experiences inside, waiting to be explored. Never assume you know somebody's life story just by looking at them. Throw out the present. Take some time to ask questions and listen to these fascinating stories of life. You just might find an utterly unique perspective that will assist you on your life journey. Today, take some time to call someone, a friend, or anyone and ask questions about their life story so you can learn. And always enjoy the day.
Aussie Gracie Kim is featured in today's Entertainment Spotlight right here on Conversations Daily News. For Conversations Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with the Entertainment Spotlight. Author Gracie Kim joined me recently on Conversations Live, the radio show, to celebrate her brand new book, The Last Fallen Star. Here's a bit of our conversation.
First of all, I have to ask you, Gracie, how does it feel to finally have this book out in the world?
It feels so real is probably the best way to put it, especially because it's all virtual. You know, I live in New Zealand, as you can probably tell from my accent, and I was supposed to be in the US celebrating in person, but that lovely friend of ours, COVID, turned up, and so I'm still in New Zealand.
Right, right.
It's an amazing feeling, yeah.
Well, I think that it's so interesting you mentioned that, but I think COVID would find its way appropriately into any book these days as something for the heroes to deal with. I love what you've done, though, in this book, Gracie, and I said in my review on Amazon that Riley is, I think, the perfect representation for a lot of us, someone who is trying to find their place, but is kind of able to embrace her own power. So I want to ask you, as a storyteller, Gracie, what has that been like for you to realize what you want to do as a writer and then to embrace that power and do it?
So it's a really interesting discovery that I had in myself. I have always loved books. I've been a huge devourer of words. And one day, as an adult, I was reading back on some of my favorites. And it was at that point I realized that I had been invisible my entire life and I hadn't known it. The worst part was that through these books, not seeing people like me on the page, I had internalized this belief that people like me didn't belong in books. And, at first I just thought, I'll just let other people do it. It will change. I don't like this feeling, but it will change by itself. And then one day I realized, you know what, no, I can't just complain about it. If I feel passionately about this and if I have something to say, if I have a story to tell, then I need to tell it. I need to be part of that change.
Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. We thank you all for tuning in to this edition of Conversations Daily News. But we'll have you guys on tomorrow with more news, Truth of the Day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich, and of course your Entertainment Spotlight. Until then, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Daily News today. Let's make today amazing. Take care.